Well, let's take a moment to find the real reason why red maple is called red maple. It often gets a crimson colored foliage, but not always. It can be yellow or gold, depending on the habitat. A lot of the varieties a lot of the specimens I find in the swamp forest have a more likely to have a gold or yellow foliage in the fall. But the real reason we call it red maple, and I'm in a great place to see this. Not too often I get the drone's eye view of treetops. I'm not using a drone at the moment, at least, to make these videos. But I am on top of what's called High Rock in Letcher County, Kentucky. This is on the Pine Mountain Trail. And we're looking straight down at the top of some red maple trees that are probably 60 or 80 feet high. And we're looking right down at them. You can see the very nice red twigs that they develop on the new growth especially. And also the red buds themselves. On the new growth especially, you get the red twigs. But also you get red buds even on the older growth or the twigs that aren't getting as much sun. And one of these trees back here is actually starting to get some flowers. They're a little bit off in the distance. I'll try to zoom in as best I can. And there's the early spring appearance of a red maple tree. They often get their flowers even in February some years. They're very early to bloom, unlike the sugar maple, which often waits till April or even May, depending on where you live. And let's continue our study of the red maple and the real reason we call it the red maple. Well, I shot that video from up on High Rock in Kentucky last week, and it was a great view, but not a great view for the details of the red maple. So we're going to add this to that so we can really see why it's called red maple up close. I've got a red maple sapling growing here in a swampy area in Warren County, Ohio. And in this county, we do not find red maple growing anywhere but the swamps. But down in Kentucky and other parts of the Appalachians and the lower Great Lakes, in Ohio Valley, it does grow on hillsides. But in some areas, it's only in the wetlands. So let's take a closer look here. I just showed some real bright red new growth, and here's some more right here. And the more it grew last year, the more red we have here. This twig is probably 8 inches long. That's all last year's new growth. Bright red with the bright red buds as well. And these trees also get an early spring flower that you can see here on this little twig right here. And I've also got some that have fallen to the ground. You can see some here. They're backlit a little bit. There's some that have fallen to the ground. And I've got those on this tablet case. You can see there's a whole stalk of them on the left. That broke off one of the larger trees in the swamp forest here. And there's a larger stalk on the right. And some individual flowers as well. And this is the second week of March, and this tree is already in bloom. It's been a little mild this spring, so it's probably a little ahead of schedule, but you would expect to see these in bloom in March, even sometimes late February. And this year, they're probably a couple weeks early. And they hold these flowers for several weeks until things really get cranking and the weather gets up in the 60s and 70s, and then the leaves start to come out. So this is our red maple with its early spring appearance.